watching Saturday in the Woodworking Shop with Andrew Pitts, where we talk things woodworking. I received a request from a childhood friend to make a cross for his pastor as a going-away gift. And he had selected one of the Vector Art 3D models called Rustic Cross. Well, this model's really meant more for a wall hanging, and so the depth of this thing wasn't very much. The problem was my friend wanted this to be standalone. He wanted to be able to set this on a table or a desk or something, and so I needed to modify the file to carve something deep enough where I could put a good little pedestal on it and make it work. So I needed this bush portion to be much deeper, you know, to the tune of almost the thickness of the blank, which was 1 7/8 inches, yet I wanted the cross to be shallower. So what I did was I separated the bush from the cross. I made a little separation vector here, and then using the modeling tool for splitting the selected component using a vector, I was able to split out the bush, and you can see using my component tree here, there's just the bush. And then I was able to manipulate the height of the bush itself using its properties and get the shape height up close to 1 7/8 inches. Similarly with the cross, and that's 1 1/4 inches. At that point, I could then combine these into a group, which I'll call the cross group, and that's what I could actually carve. I did a 3-stage carving on this. The first was a rough cutout using a 3/8 inch end mill, and I cut to this vector, and that gave me a lot of clearance room to come in with a 1/8 inch ball nose and do the fine cutout, and that fine cutting was to that vector, so it carved the cross and the bush. And then finally I used that same 1/8 inch ball nose, tapered ball nose, excuse me, that had a 1 degree side angle, by the way, so it's almost straight, and I cut out to that inside vector there. So let's take a look at what that looks like. All right, we'll bring up the 3D view. First, the rough cutout right there. We'll preview that toolpath. And you can see that gave me a lot of room to work. Then I came in with my 1/8 inch tapered ball nose with a 1 degree side angle, and this gave us the detail. I'm going to do the cutout, and I'm going to use that same bit, and so now I got to be very careful where my cutout line is, because the software is simply going to make a cut right along that cutout line. So that's what this looks like, and it's important, like I say, to have enough clearance that the bit doesn't run against the side of this and burn the wood. So there's a cutout line with the tabs. All I've got to do now is cut through the tabs with a chisel or a saw and then clean up these edges, and we're ready to go. Here you go, deep carving with the ShopBot Desktop and Aspire software. Looks nice. Referring back to last week's video where I made a sword holder, got a question from Mark, and he wanted to know just how difficult and time-consuming it is real time to use Aspire to do that work. And I got to say, if you get good at it, which I'm getting there. It doesn't take that long to do. And in my videos, of course, I cut out a lot that I don't want you to have to wait while the computer's thinking and wait while I'm thinking. But I think once you get your thought process down and you know where you want to go, and you have a familiarization with the tools in Aspire and with the ShopBot, then you can move rather quickly. And I would say the total design was maybe an hour, but there was a lot more time just thinking and getting it together what I wanted to do. By the way, Vectric offers free trials of their software that you can download. They won't make tool paths, but you can do everything else, especially if you don't even have a CNC yet. You can go ahead and take their tutorials, which they've got hours and hours of free tutorials, learn how to use the software, and then when you finally do get your CNC machine, all you've got to do is buy the real software, you know, the real version, and then you can make your tool paths. So I recommend that to everyone. I got an email from Patrick, and he wants to know if I think that the ShopBot Desktop is adequate in size. Well, that's a complicated question, so let me just take a little time to talk about why I decided on this particular machine. And by the way, I'm not paid by ShopBot, I just like the machine. First of all, I wanted some real precision because, as you know from watching my videos, I like to carve. And so the more precision, the better. Well, the ShopBot Desktop uses a lead screw. It's a Teflon coated lead screw to drive the X, Y, and Z directions. And that tends to be a really tight kind of a drive as compared to rack and pinion, which has a little more play in it. So the desktop specs are a factor of 10 higher precision than the rack and pinion model. So that was important. The size of the bed, yes, that's nice to have, but it's a double-edged sword. This is an 18 by 24 bed, and you can actually run your work as long as you want through this thing and use what's called tiled tool paths and just cut a section at a time. And you'll see that in the video of the officer's sea chest. And it's just the width that you know, is restricted. But on the other hand, I don't need to use half of my shop just to house this machine. So it's a trade-off. Now, the height of the Z-axis is important, and when I bought this machine, the Z-axis height was only, I think, 4 inches, and it was pretty restrictive, and that concerned me. But since that time, ShopBot has developed a 5.5-inch Z-axis, which all the new machines come with, and I was able to backfit this machine, so now my bit comes up quite high, and I found that it's adequate for the kind of work that I do. Now, this comes with either a spindle or a router. I selected a spindle because I've read that the bearings are better and the control is better with a spindle and it lasts longer. So since I'm looking at the long picture with the machine, you know, I want this to last a long, long time, I just went ahead and bit the bullet right up front and got the spindle, which I've been happy with. I like the strength of this ShopBot, the way they've used a lot of fasteners to fasten this together, and it's very rigid, it doesn't go anywhere, and it runs smoothly. So that was a big selling point for me as well. And finally, I got a request from someone to come to my workshop and spend a week learning how I do things with the CNC machine. And although I'm flattered, my schedule really won't support that. But this summer, I'll be teaching at Peters Valley School of Craft. That's petersvalley.org. Go to the adult workshop section, then the woodworking workshop section, and scroll on down and you'll find me. And the dates of the workshop are going to be the 14th through the 18th of August. So come on up to Peters Valley and we'll spend a week learning CNC together. Thanks for watching.